Welcome, everyone. We are going to be focusing on stretches today, specifically leg stretches to reduce spasticity and therefore also directly impact your walking. A big reason that walking can feel hard and challenging and limiting is due to tight muscles. So, we've got a bunch of stretches that we're going to do. We're going to start at the upper half, meaning our hips, and then we're going to move down towards our knees and then down towards our ankles. There is one stretch today that we're going to do that, if you want to choose a specific option, would require a non-stretchy strap, like a belt or a yoga strap if you have that. I'm going to have my cane. You can see my pink cane back here. So something that's not stretchy. I will show you a standing option for that stretch as well. So you could just do that if you don't have something to use. But let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to scoot back. If you don't know who I am, I always forget to introduce myself. I'm Gretchen Hawley. I'm a physical therapist and multiple sclerosis certified specialist. So all of my exercises are geared towards helping people with MS not just feel stronger and get more flexible, but actually improve movement and mobility. Let me just move this down a little further. Okay. All right, so one thing that we do for all of my classes is we start with just a little bit of cardio or aerobic exercise because that can prime our brain for neuroplasticity, meaning we're even more likely to find and strengthen those neural pathways. So even though our class today focuses on stretching, not necessarily strengthening, it's still a good idea just to get our brain ready to go. So go ahead and just shake everything out. You're sitting in about the middle of your chair, and we're just going to try to get nice and loose. We're trying to get loose throughout the whole class today, but this is a way to get loose just by wiggling, shaking things out. There's literally a science behind wiggling and shaking our muscles out. It does so much good for our body. So just a couple more seconds here. Just shake, shake, shake. There's no right or wrong. And then when you're ready, just go ahead and sit up as tall as you can. Close those hands, don't squeeze, just close them, and you're just gonna start to swing those arms. Our goal here is to get our heart rate up. This is our cardio. We're not going to use our legs for cardio because we don't want to tire our legs out. So we're just going to use our upper body, swing, swing, swing. Maybe go a little faster than what feels like your normal. Get that heart rate up. You're muted right now. No one can hear you, so you can talk out loud at the same time if you want. You can sing the ABCs. You can talk about what you're doing for dinner tonight or what your week looks like. Keep going. And now we're going to do 5 seconds of as fast arm swings as we can. In 3, 2, 1, go fast for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then slow it down. Shake everything out. We're just going to do one more cardio exercise, and it's going to be our forward punches. So again, close those hands and punch forward. If you have any shoulder limitations where this is challenging for you, then you can just punch down towards your knees. This is much less effort for your shoulders, but do whatever feels best for you. Punch forward, forward, forward. Remember, this is to get our heart rate up, so go a little bit faster than what feels like your normal. Punch, punch, punch. Keep breathing. Talk out loud if you want to. Keep going, fast, fast, fast. One question I get a lot with this exercise is, should my fist be like this or like this? It doesn't matter, whatever works for you. I feel like my fists are kind of somewhere in the middle. They're a little bit at a diagonal. All right, we're gonna go really fast for 5 seconds in 3, 2, 1, and go fast for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, slow it down, stop, and let your arms rest, shake everything out. Okay, we're moving on to our stretching. We're going to stretch the muscles that MS tends to tighten the most. So we're going to start with our hip flexors, the front of our hip. There's 2 ways that you can do this stretch, seated and standing. The standing option looks like this. You're going to stand up, put one leg behind you, And let me show you from this side as well. So one leg goes behind you about this distance. You're not going to be super far, but it's also not a little step. So maybe about a little bit wider than what your shoulder length would be. And then from here, you're going to tuck your butt under as much as you can. And you should feel that stretch in the front of the leg that's behind you. So you're tucking, tucking, tucking. Now, if you were to do it seated, it's going to look like this. Opening your feet and knees as wide as you can. That might look different than what I look like, and that's okay. And then you're going to use your hands to help you turn and pivot so that you are facing sideways. And then from here, tuck your butt under, just like we did when we were standing. And when you do that, when you really tuck, you should feel that stretch in the front of your hip. So if I were to stand up, the stretch looks like this. If I were to sit down, it's like this. So it's the same thing, just one version you're standing, one you're sitting. If you haven't already, go ahead and pick one of those and just stretch it out. When we're talking about spasticity, MS-specific spasticity, research shows that it can be better to hold the stretch longer, as including a few minutes of the stretch, versus shorter, like 20 or 30 seconds. So today, we're going to do a little bit in between. We've got a lot of stretches, so I don't want you to have to be stretching for a full hour to get the benefits. So we're not going to be holding for 3 to 5 minutes per stretch, but we are going to be holding for about the 1 minute mark for each of these stretches. If we have time at the end, we'll do another round of them. If not, that's okay. But as we're doing these stretches, I want you to keep in mind which ones feel good to you, or which ones feel like, wow, I can tell that my body needs this stretch. Because you don't always have to stretch for a full hour or 30 minutes or even 15. You could just stretch for 1 minute each side randomly throughout the day. That's just 2 minutes of your time. When you're ready, we're going to switch legs. So if you're sitting, you're going to swivel to the front and keep going all the way until you're over on the other side. If you were standing, you're just going to switch one leg forward, one leg back. And if you're standing, you can hold on to something. So you don't have to be in the middle of the room like I'm demonstrating. So when you're ready, tuck your hips under, whether you're standing or sitting, and feel that stretch in the front of the leg that's behind you, that front hip area. So if this stretch feels great, you could do just this stretch a few times throughout the day today, or tomorrow, or this week. If for some reason you're not feeling this stretch, then there's two things that you can do. Number one, get the leg that's behind you further behind you. So if you're sitting, it might look like scooting it back. If you're standing, it would just mean taking a further step back. And then the second thing that you can do is, once you've tucked your butt under, attempt to straighten that back knee without losing the tuck. If your butt comes untucked, you're not going to feel the stretch. But keep your bottom tucked under as you attempt to straighten that back knee, and you should feel that stretch more in the front. And hold. Keep breathing. Especially if this feels intense for you, it's easy to stop breathing. And you don't realize it until you have to take a gasp of air. A few more seconds here. All right, and when you're ready, we're going to swivel back to the center. So if you're sitting, just come back to the center. If you're standing, go ahead and sit down. So for this next one, we're going to keep our feet and our knees nice and wide. And we're going to sit up tall and hinge forward. If you have wrist problems where this bothers your wrists, you can just come down to your forearms. But regardless of if it's your hands or forearms, they're on the bottoms of your thighs, and you're going to turn towards your left side, and your right hand is going to push your right inner thigh open. So You might feel this stretch on the inners parts of both thighs, that's fine. Or you might feel it more on the right since you're pushing that right inner thigh open. That's fine too. And let me just say, for all stretches, as long as you're feeling a stretch somewhere, even if it's not the specific part that we're talking about, that's okay. Stretching is so individualized, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to feel the stretch in whichever muscle is tightest for you, even if that's not the specific stretch we're doing. Hold here a little bit longer. Keep breathing. This inner thigh stretch is so important if you walk with your legs very close together. When these muscles are tight, it pulls our knees in. When you're ready, come back up to the center, shake those hands out. We're going to give them a quick little break before we turn to the other side. But if you have a tendency to walk with your legs close together or crossing in between, or if your knees are knock-kneed as you're walking or as you sit down or stand up, this can be a big culprit. So stretching these muscles should help with that. When you're ready, feet and knees are wide. Hinge forward again and turn towards the right with your left hand pushing the left inner thigh open. And hold, keep breathing. If it doesn't feel intense enough, you can try hinging forward a little bit more, or maybe tipping one way or the other. Again, every stretch is going to be different for every person. If it's too intense, back off a bit. Don't lean as far forward. Don't push as wide open. Oftentimes, when I'm done teaching a stretching class, people with MS will say that their balance even feels better. When our muscles are flexible like they should be, our body just tends to work better. Any balance limitations might feel like they're not limiting you as much. Your core might feel stronger because you don't have these tight muscles pulling you in different directions. All right, when you're ready, come back to the center and come all the way up. Shake those hands out. You can move your legs. Try not to use your hands if possible, and just scoot your legs back in. If it didn't work and you do need to use your hands, go for it. But always try first to not use your hands. The next stretch that we're going to do is a hamstring stretch. This is the muscle on the back of our thigh that comes all the way up to the bone that we sit on and all the way down to just below our knees. If you have really tight hamstrings, your knees might stay in a bent position. What we're going to do is sit up nice and tall towards the edge of your chair. You still want to feel stable on your chair, so don't scoot too far forward, but you're going to straighten one leg and try your best to get the knee as straight as possible. You might have to shimmy a little bit, but once the knee is as straight as possible, hands are on your opposite lower thigh, sit up tall, and hinge forward. And again, you're going to feel this wherever it's tightest for you. Technically, this is a hamstring stretch, meaning you'd feel this anywhere from behind your knee all the way up to behind your bottom. But if your calves are really tight, even though your foot is down, let me show you from this side. So my foot's down, I'm not actively keeping it up, but if my calf muscle is really tight, I might actually feel this there. Or if the tops of my ankles or shins are really tight, I might actually feel this stretch there. There's no right or wrong. There should be no pain. Tightness from discomfort is okay, but nothing should be painful anytime you're stretching. And we're just going to hold here and keep breathing. I do want to show you a standing option as well. If you like this seated option, just stay sitting. But if you wanted to do a standing option, it looks the same. One leg's behind you and you're hinging down. So one leg is still in front and the knee is straight. But your weight is in your bottom and this leg. I like the seated option. I always prefer seated options for strengthening and stretching exercises because the majority of us sit a lot throughout the day. So if we have a seated stretch or a seated strengthening exercise, that means that we can stretch and strengthen throughout the day without having to stand up or go into a specific room. And also, when it comes to stretching, when you're sitting, you don't have to worry about balance. It requires so much less effort. And when you're stretching, the primary focus of what we're doing should be stretching. If your body is working on strengthening and keeping you balanced while stretching, oftentimes you're not going to get as good of a stretch because your body's focusing on too many things. When you're ready, come back up. Shake those hands out if you need. Try your best to not use your hands as you bring that leg back in. That can be hard. And try your best to not use your hands as you scoot the other leg forward. So you're moving on to the other side. Once that leg is forward and the knee is as straight as possible, hands are on the opposite lower thigh, sit up tall, and hinge forward. You'll notice my back is flat. If my back is flat, as you see it is now, this is as far as I can comfortably go. I'm feeling a pretty big stretch in my hamstring. But watch what happens if I round my back. Look how far that looks like, whoa, like you might feel like, whoa, look how flexible she is. But it's because I'm just rounding my back. It's a different angle. And oftentimes people think the more movement they have, the better of a stretch. That's not necessarily true. And oftentimes, you're putting your back at a higher risk for injury by rounding it like that. So it's better to keep your back flat and stay up higher to get that same level of stretch as what you might feel if you were to go lower, but it's with worse posture. Keep breathing just a little bit longer here. We've got one more hip stretch before we move a little bit further down. When you're ready, come all the way back up. Try your best, if possible, to not use your hands to bring your leg in. If it didn't work, go ahead and use your hands. But again, always try not to use your hands first. Shake everything out. Our final hip stretch is going to be our figure four. So everyone can sit down. If you were doing the hamstring stretch standing, have a seat. We're going to grab one leg. I'm going to do my right leg first. And you can use your arms to pick up your leg. So often people try to just get it up there without using their arms, and they feel like they're failing if they don't. You don't have to do that. Use your arms, grab your leg, and place it on your opposite lower thigh. This leg should just be dead weight. Your hands and arms should be what's holding it on. If this position is too challenging to get into, then you can do this same stretch just by crossing that right ankle over the left and letting that knee fall open. Regardless of which option you do, you're then going to sit up tall and hinge forward, just like we did for the last hamstring stretch. So if you're like this, you're sitting up tall and you hinge forward. This is a stretch for the outside of our hip, maybe even the outside of our thigh. When these muscles are tight and not working well, it can cause hip pain, it can cause low back pain, it can cause knee pain, it can make walking more challenging. That's just to name a few. These are big muscle groups, and so we want them to be working effectively and efficiently. And again, today we're aiming for maybe about that 60-second mark for holding the stretches. If you're doing these on your own, you could spend 5 minutes holding each stretch if you wanted to. Another type of stretching is only holding for about 30 seconds, but because it's a shorter amount of time, you should do that same stretch 2 to 4 times. So instead of just once, then moving on, you would maybe take a break to do the other leg, but then come back and do it at least one more time. If you find that as you're stretching, you feel like you're getting a little more flexible, like that tightness released, then feel free to hinge a little further forward. If you feel the opposite, if you feel like, no, this is too much and it's getting tighter, then back off. And if you're feeling nothing, so often I'll demonstrate a stretch and someone will say, I don't feel anything at all. That's okay. As long as you're in the position of the stretch, that muscle is being stretched outside of its normal position. You don't have to feel a stretch in order to be stretching the muscle. When you're ready, we're going to, if you are hinging forward, stop hinging, lower that leg down. Shake anything out that you feel needs shaken out, maybe your wrists, maybe your knees. And then when you're ready, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So that left heel crosses over the right, or grab that left leg, scoot it up onto that right lower thigh. Sit up tall. I can already tell this is my tighter side. This immediately feels like a stretch and I'm not even hinging forward yet. So I'm going to stay here, but if you want, go ahead and hinge forward if that's what feels like a better stretch for you. Also remember that as you're doing all of these stretches, what you're sitting on matters. That would be a lower chair for me, partially because it is lower, also partially because it would squish down. These stretches would feel different if I'm on a lower surface. I might not be able to hinge as far forward as I would in this chair. Or if you're sitting at the edge of your bed, that might be taller. Maybe you can hinge a little bit further forward. So if you're repeating this class or even just specific stretches in a different room or on a different chair, keep that in mind. Always be listening to your body in terms of where are you feeling it and how intense is it. If it's too intense, back off, even if it wasn't too intense in that chair. If it's not intense enough, hinge forward, even if you weren't able to hinge forward in a different chair. Every bout of stretching should be an opportunity to just listen to your body and see what your body can do today, especially with MS, which changes our bodies every day. Few more seconds here. All right, and when you're ready, if you were hinging, stop hinging, lower that leg down or uncross it from your ankle. Go ahead and shake anything out. If you have water nearby, go ahead and take a sip of water. So we just fully stretched our hips. We stretched the front of our hip, the inner thigh of our inner hip, the outer hip, and the back side of our hip. We also got our knees a little bit. That hamstring stretch stretches the back of our knees as well as the back of our hip. So we've done a lot of great quality stretches already, but let's move a little bit further down. So what I want us to do to help relieve some spasticity for our quad muscles, these are so important because when our quad muscles, which are the muscles on the front of our thigh, when these muscles are tight, it straightens our knee. And if your knee is straight and can't bend, it significantly impacts our walking. If you feel like you have to swing your leg around or you hike your hip up like this, or you're scuffing your leg because it's not bending, more likely than not, it's due to tightness or spasticity in these muscles. So we're going to be sitting in the middle of our chair and have your legs just be relaxed. Wherever they want to fall is fine. And what we're going to do is we're going to massage our quad muscles. So on our right leg, you're going to either take the heel of your palm, or maybe you can close your hand and do your knuckles. You can do your thumbs, whatever feels good for you. But you're just going to rub up and down right on the top of your thigh. So right now I'm using the balls of my hands. I could do my knuckles. There's no right or wrong. If I do my thumb or both thumbs, you're just going up and down the center of your thigh. Remember to try to keep that leg relaxed. Sometimes as we get massaging, our leg kind of tenses up and tries to help us. Just let it relax, loosey-goosey leg. We're just massaging. Few more seconds here, then we're going to slightly change the angle. So right now you should feel like you're in the center of your thigh. Now what we're gonna do is go slightly to the outside of your thigh, not the outside, just slightly roll towards the right. So if you're on your right leg, you're in the center, slightly roll to the right and massage there. Same thing, front and back. Now, for some people, myself included, this is actually a little bit more sensitive. There's a few additional muscles on the outer thigh that when they are tight, which is in most people, again, it affects our hip, it affects our knee, it affects our walking. And I don't know if you've ever heard of the phrase the IT band, but that is close to where we're working right now. Keep going. Few more seconds here, and then we have one more rotation before we switch thighs. And when you're ready, you're going to come back to the center, the top of your thigh, and now you're going to roll a little bit towards the left. So you're slightly on the inner thigh. And you're going to roll there up and down, whatever you want to use. You can switch hands if it's easier to use your other hand. So we have 4 quad muscles. That's why they're called the quad, 4. And there's 2 in the center, one on the slight outside, one on the slight inside. So we really want to make sure we're stretching and releasing all of them, not just one. When we did our very first stretch, if you need a reminder, it was this one, or if you were standing, it looked like this. If you felt that on the front of your thigh, that might mean that your quads are tighter than your hip flexors. So your quads are limiting you more than your hip flexors are. And that's fine. That's good to know so that we can become aware of that and release the appropriate muscles. A few more seconds here. All right, and when you're ready, you can stop there. Give your hands a little bit of a break, shake those out, and we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. So shake things out. If you need to wiggle, if you were having different posture, you can stretch out your back. When you're ready, sit up tall, trying to still have good posture when possible. And we're gonna come over to the top of your left thigh. Again, use whatever body part of your hand felt easiest, most comfortable for you. And you're just gonna go down and up. Now, I'm not coming all the way to the top of my thigh. I'm coming about here, just so you can kind of visually see. I'm not coming up to my hips. I'm just staying on this middle and lower part. You can do whatever feels best for you. If you prefer to go all the way up, go for it. But I am coming down to like right above my knee bone. I'm not actually touching the bone. That would just be uncomfortable, and there's really no benefit in doing that. But we're just going up and down the middle part. Remember, this leg is trying to stay dead weight, loosey-goosey. It's not helping you at all. That's the way to get the most effective release. Keep breathing. Keep that leg nice and loose. Up and down. A few more seconds here. All right, and then when you're ready, we're going to go slightly to the outside. So we're on our left thigh, slightly roll to the outside of that leg. So again, you're not on the outside, but just a little bit off center towards the outside of the leg. And you're going to rub up and down, trying your best to keep that leg relaxed. I keep saying that because I keep noticing my leg keeps trying to help. So it's a reminder for myself as much as it is you. Even if you know what you're supposed to be doing, it's hard to prevent our body from helping. Up and down. Your hands will get a break after this. You can switch back and forth if your knuckles feel better, if your palms are getting tired, if your thumbs want to help out. A few more seconds here. All right, when you're ready, you can shake your hands out if you need. And we're going to come back to the center and then slightly to the inside and go up and down. Same thing, you know the drill. Keep going a little bit longer. If there is ever an area when you're massaging in this way that you feel like, holy cow, that is tight, or that I really feel that, then that could be a good opportunity for what we would call a trigger point release. So if you keep going, but as you're watching me, if I felt here, like, oh my goodness, that is really sensitive, then what we could do is come slightly off of that area in any direction, slightly back, slightly forward, slightly right, slightly left, somewhat off, and just press in. I like to use two thumbs. Just press however much you can until you feel like, okay, that's sensitive, but it's not painful. And just maintain that pressure and wait for it to go away. It might take 5 seconds to go away, it might take 2 minutes, but at some point it should feel like it's lessening. At that point, you press a little bit further. And same thing, wait for it to lessen and then go a little bit further. And then you would find a different point. So I went slightly backwards. Next, I might go slightly to the side. And you would do that around the point and then go back to massaging, and hopefully it would feel like that specific point has released. Okay, you can stop there. Great job. Shake everything out. We're going to move down to our ankles and our calves. So this would be a great time to grab your cane or your non-stretchy strap if you have one. I'll show you the standing option for this stretch as well. But for the seated option, what you're going to do is sit up nice and tall and straighten one leg, trying to get your knee as straight as possible. It should look very similar to our hamstring stretch. But with our hamstring stretch, we leaned forward and we didn't care what our ankle was doing. This time we do care what our ankle is doing. So you're going to put your stretchy, non-stretchy strap or your cane underneath the balls of your feet, and you're using your arms to pull. Ideally, your calf is staying relaxed, so your ankle is staying relaxed. Once you're here, regardless of how high up you can pull, you're going to sit up tall. If you have tight calf muscles like me, you'll already feel this tightness in the back of that lower leg. If you're not feeling it there yet, then feel free to hinge forward as far as you need with a flat back until you feel that stretch in the back of that lower leg. Whew, my calf muscles have always been pretty tight. It's the hardest muscle for me to release. Your arms should feel like they're doing work. Now, if you want to do the standing option, what you can do is come up to a wall, and whichever leg you want to stretch, in this case, we're stretching our right leg, you would put that right leg behind you, and your heel stays down as you lean forward into the wall. And you would feel this ideally in the back of that lower leg. So you can do either option. There's no right or wrong. Keep holding. Keep breathing. This is such an important muscle to stretch if you have foot drop. So if when you walk, it's really hard to bring your toes up, or you're noticing that you're scuffing the ground, maybe your shoes have a few more scuff marks on the front side. When these muscles are tight, it pulls your foot down. So just by releasing the tightness here, it can allow you to lift your ankle easier. Okay, when you're ready, you can stop stretching this leg. So if you're standing, you're going to stand up. You can shake everything out. If you're sitting, you can release the non-stretchy strap or the cane. Try your best not to use your hands as you bring your leg in. If you need to, you can. And then when you're ready, you're going to straighten the other leg. Again, the knee is ideally going to be as straight as possible. You're going to hook your non-stretchy strap. The reason why I keep saying non-stretchy is because sometimes, most of the time, if you're using a stretchy strap, like a resistance band, you're not going to get as much of a stretch because it's stretchy. Whereas with this, if I pull, I'm pulling my ankle. With the resistance band, when I pull, I'm pulling the resistance and then my ankle. So there's just more slack and you're not likely to get as big of a stretch. So this is what we look like if we're sitting. If you're standing, you're just going to put the other leg behind you as far as you can comfortably. Nice wide stance so you feel stable and balanced. Tuck your butt under, lean forward onto that front knee. One reason why I like the seated option is because when we're doing this, where I'm feeling it mostly right now, if the wall's right here, is my hip flexor, because my hip flexors tend to be tighter in a standing position than my calf. But the goal right now is to feel it in my calf. So I'm actually personally, you can stay standing if you want, I feel it a bigger stretch here in my calf, so I'm going to come back here. And keep breathing. A few more seconds. All right, and when you're ready, if you're standing, you can come and sit down. If you're sitting, you can move your non-stretchy strap or your belt, whatever it is, cane over to the side. The last one that we're going to do is for our ankles. So we're going to get into the same position as that figure four, where you brought your leg up. But this time, we're still holding our leg onto our thigh so that this leg can be dead weight. But we're going to take our hands. So with my right leg in the bent position, my left hand is going to take the bottom of my foot and roll. And you're purposely trying to maximize the roll. Really try to pull up as far as you can, push up towards your knee as far as you can, down towards the floor. So in all the positions of the rotation, you're trying your best to really get a good stretch in there. There might be a specific position, maybe it's down or up, where you feel like it's just not going. I don't have that flexibility, and that's okay. Just do the best that you can. Rolling. Doesn't matter if you're going clockwise or counterclockwise, because we're going to switch and do the opposite in just a bit here. If you are not wearing shoes or socks, one thing that you can do that I personally love doing is you can try to weave your fingers in between your toes and then do the same thing. Just roll your ankle from there. If you've never done that before, you might be very surprised, as I was, with how tight your toes are. The bigger flexibility, the more flexibility we have in our toes, the better balance we have most of the time. Okay, and when you're ready, switch directions. So if you're going clockwise, now you're going counterclockwise or vice versa. Doesn't matter what pace you're going. You might be going slower than me. You might be going a little bit faster. What matters more is, are you pushing into each range? So you're really, it's not just a quick ankle roll. You're purposely trying to get a little more flexibility. Few more seconds here. And whenever you're ready, you can stop rolling and lower that leg down. Take a second to breathe, shake out your wrists, your elbows, let your legs relax. Final one is same thing, but on the other side. So whenever you're ready, grab that leg, bring it up, grab the ankle. If you aren't wearing socks or shoes, you can put your fingers between your toes if you want. And whenever you're ready, just start rolling with a little bit of overpressure, as we did with the other side. Just trying to press a bit more in each direction. When our ankle is stiff, it often makes everything with walking harder because things need to work harder. If our ankle is stiff, our knee needs to bend more in order for us not to trip. Our hip needs to bend more. And if bending your knee and your hip is hard anyways, then that often is going to put you at a risk for tripping or falling, leaning, depending on your mobility aid a bit more. A few more seconds here before we go in the other direction. When you're ready, other direction. Same idea, a little bit of overpressure in all the directions. If you ever feel like the bottoms of your feet in particular are really tight, you can pause and just pull your foot and your toes towards you. That might feel good for the bottom of your foot. A few more seconds here. All right, when you're ready, you can stop rolling, lower that leg, shake everything out, let everything relax. And hopefully, now that we've done all of these stretches, when you go to stand up and walk, hopefully you do feel a bit more stable, a bit better balance because your muscles are now able to work more efficiently. And remember, you can repeat this class and do all these stretches together, or you can just pick your favorites and do them throughout the day. Research does show, specifically for MS, that if you're able to stretch in smaller doses, 3 to 5 times a day, that might actually be more effective than just stretching at one point. So keep that in mind. Doesn't have to be the full class 3 to 5 times a day, but just the ones that you feel were most effective for you. All right, when you're ready, you can stop shaking, give yourself a round of applause. Great job for completing class today.